You were listening to the Christopher Chaos Podcast. Let's talk Army. With U.S. Army veteran Christopher Chaos.
What's up? Welcome to the Christopher Chaos Podcast. Of course, I'm Christopher Chaos, and this is a new thing that I'm kind of working on to provide you guys with some podcast-style content here on the YouTube channel. Possibly this might be available on other streaming sources as well, like Spotify and such, if I have made it available to there. I don't know about for this episode, but maybe for future episodes that will be a thing. But this is fairly new. All right, still kind of working with it, trying to get all the kinks out of it and how to work it together, because what I'm doing is within the Discord community, the Chaos Army Discord. Link is in the YouTube video description here if you want to join it. But during a live kind of broadcast in the Discord, me and other veterans, other guests, talk about Army related content, talk about Army things. And from that live kind of podcast that I'm recording, I capture some of the key moments for this here. So while there is video, maybe this might be more useful for you to just simply have the audio on in the background, maybe on a drive to work or whatever, and be able to listen to things. So this is kind of one of the first attempts for this podcast as we kind of evolve this over time to hopefully make it better, make it more entertaining, and a little bit more enjoyable for individuals to just tune in to maybe listen and hear some kind of stories and experiences and talking to individuals and everything. So in this episode, me and two other of my moderators, we have VGMR, who is a Army veteran, and then we have Argo, which is also a moderator. He is currently in the Army right now. He's been in the Army only for a couple of years, and we're kind of talking about how things have changed a little bit. You know, some of our experiences from basic training and different other environments as well, too, to give some kind of stories. And you can kind of see a little bit of, generation gap or a little bit of, time frame gap as, I joined in the late 90s, early 2000s, VGMR a little bit later on, about 3 or 4 or 5 years later, something like that. And then Argo, who has only been in the Army for a couple of years. So you'll see a little bit of kind of differences as far as how the Army has kind of evolved and how things have changed. So we'll get into it. But this is some of the moments from us talking about a lot of like basic training stuff, how things were different, how other kind of things maybe are different from our experiences compared to each other's experiences. So enjoy.
Yeah, you joined in the 90s, right? So you're probably been in the Army the longest compared to all of us.
I mean, technically, yes, I joined in the 90s. It was the late 90s, though. Like, I went to basic training in August of 99. So I didn't actually even arrive at my first unit until 2000.
Okay, and my sign-in day was 2005. Yeah, 2005.
Yeah. So
yeah, and I believe that our two armies were different from each other.
Probably. I mean, you only have a 5-year gap on me, and then Argo, right? Is that what we're going to call you?
Yeah, that works.
You're currently in, right?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. So I technically went to MEPS and enlisted and sworn and everything in, I want to say February or March of 2021. So fairly recently. So I guess it's kind of the overarching branch of like the late 90s, early 2000s, and 2000s into whenever, and then I got the new cap of it.
Yeah.
So that basically we have you who was pre 9/11, me that was right after 9/11, and we have Argo who joined when War of Terrorism was pretty much over.
Yeah, pretty much the end of, you can't even get after what year was it? Was it 2022? You can no longer get the 2022 is the National Defense Service ribbon anymore?
Actually, it was like 2023, I believe. So
is it? Okay.
Yeah, because I got it, and I graduated basic in November of 21.
Okay.
It's a silly medal for some, but for some people it means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I actually deployed.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that I got 2 ribbons instead of 1, so I'll take what I can get, I guess.
Yeah, hey.
I mean, I have my 2 good conduct medals and a couple of Arcoms and AMs, so
Yeah.
my ribbons were okay.
I still have to do
Considering
a
my
video
job.
on all my ribbons, and I just keep on putting it off, but eventually it's coming where I'm going to do a video explaining all my ribbons and all my awards that I got to get around to it. But yeah. So definitely some changes, I guess, that kind of went, because I came in thinking that, it'd be nice and cushy. I don't have to worry about deployments because nothing's going on right now. And then 9/11 happened, where VGMR, you came in, knowing that you're going to most likely deploy, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
And now I guess it's come back around with Argo, because you probably have a similar mentality like I had, where you're like, maybe realizing, hey, there's nothing really going on. Unless something sparks up, I'm probably not going anywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know people, like a few buddy of mine in my team and stuff like that, that have done rotations to like Kuwait and stuff like that. I think that was in like 20 or 21, so fairly recently, but who knows? Maybe things will kick off and they'll start sending people to Poland or Ukraine or wherever.
And that's stuff that's still even going on now. Like that's the thing you probably could still do is pull like training deployments. Because that was even a thing. Like when I first joined my first unit of being at Fort Riley, we had people that were in one of our sister units. They were going to Kosovo, and it was a training kind of a deployment. It wasn't really a combat kind of thing. And we had guys that ended up volunteering to go over to that unit, and they went there for 6 months and then came back to us and stuff. So those deployments were even going on then too, when even when I first joined.
There's a big thing that I when I first joined, I expected my drill sergeant to punch me a couple of times.
Yeah.
I am outright insufferable because they said it themselves that I seem too smart for the job I chose. Because I'm into computer programming. I'm great with art. I'm a music writer. I have a music channel. VGMR means video game music request. And I was expected to get hit a couple of times because I, for most of my life, thought that certain things were below me, and I shouldn't be doing it because I'm too smart for it. And it surprised me that didn't happen when I went in, and I actually made it through my basic unscathed, and I didn't even shed a tear. I've seen some guys break down. And I'm like, when is it my turn?
Yeah.
But were they tougher on you, Chris, when you joined?
They were mean. I mean, I don't feel like the drill sergeant stuff really started to change until probably only more recently. And I mean, it's not like they're like saying that they're nice now, but I mean, I just don't think it's the same mentality, because they like, and some of them probably still do, yell at soldiers and like curse at them. But I know like today's standards from people that I've talked to that went to the Drill Sergeants Academy, they kind of discourage against it. They're like, hey, don't curse at these soldiers. You shouldn't be doing that. Yelling at them is one thing, but cursing at them is the thing you shouldn't be doing, because it looks unprofessional by doing that. Whereas my drill sergeants were cursing up a storm when I went through basic training. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's not that they're nice now. They're just supposed to be more professional, I guess you could say, is what they're
not
aiming
allowed
for.
to yell at you the same way.
Yeah, not in the same way. Like they can yell at you, but they're supposed to do it to still remain professional, I guess. I have a coworker right now. He's going through the Drill Sergeant Academy, so I'll have to find out from him how it kind of went, and how they kind of were told to speak to soldiers and what they were supposed to do and all that stuff.
Yeah, but and I think that sometimes the yelling is important.
Yeah, I mean,
I always thought about, they're teaching you how to handle stress, which is something that's going to happen on the battlefield. I mean, I get it that a person is sensitive and all that. I've known a few sensitive soldiers, but my job didn't give me frontline stress. I was never going to be in the front line. If something was going to attack me, it will either kill me in a flash or kill me slowly and painful.
Yeah.
I would never see a bullet. Yeah. And but when you're out there up in the front and you're the bad guy is shooting at you, I don't think they're going to stop.
Yeah.
if you're sensitive.
Yeah.
So I'm not
You're not
saying
gonna
that you can't be
ask them to
sensitive.
stop.
I'm not going to say that you can't be sensitive.
Yeah.
It's more of the lines that you have to learn how to put that away and switch to your instinct where it's either us or them.
Yeah. What was your
And that's what I think the yelling is for.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your experience with the drill sergeants though, Argo?
So I came up in that weird period of the in between of like they had kind of phased out the shark attack and did the first 100 yards. So and I mean, most of my drills didn't give a shit. They were all infantry drills, so a little bit of a different breed. But no, it wasn't the oh we're gonna be nice. It's uh well, my senior drill sergeant in my platoon was like, "Oh, you guys want to work? You guys want to work stronger than smarter? Let's go get some barrel-chested freedom fighters here." And then just dropped us all the time, and was still running around getting in people's faces, butting them with the brim of the hat, and I'm like, "What the fuck is your problem? You think you want to be such a fucking individual? God damn it!" Like stuff like that. So I got screamed at a bunch. Swearing was not a not a rare commodity.
Hmm.
But I don't know if it's just a rare circumstance or if it's kind of that in between of like, oh, now you can't swear at them. You got to be more directive than derogatory, whatever. But
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of it too is like that they're told not to swear at the soldiers, but a lot of the drill sergeants, especially like during that time frame, probably came in like maybe like 2010, somewhere around there, where they remember being yelled at by drill sergeants and being cursed at, and they're like, "Screw this! I'm not being nice to these guys. I'm gonna curse at them. I'm gonna tell them, whatever I feel like saying. As long as the senior drill sergeant's not around, as long as the first sergeant's not around, the commander's not around, I'm gonna say whatever the hell I want to say." So it's probably a lot of that where, yeah, they might have been taught not to curse and try to be more professional, but I'm willing to bet a lot of them was like, you know what, nobody's around. Fuck this. I'm yelling at this guy however I want to yell at him.
yeah, and I feel like because they were infantry is also like
Yeah.
we're here to breed soldiers. We're not here to breed fucking cowards. Like a war is gonna kick off any second.
Yep.
It don't
Well-
matter if you're a supply guy or a mechanic or whatever. Like you're a soldier first, and then whatever professional second none. So
Yeah, in terms of that, when drill sergeants are yelling at other people, if it's subjective to what's going on and it's for a reason, I think that's completely fine. But if they're yelling at them just because they got yelled at and that's the only reason, then it's the drill sergeant's bad there. They
Yeah.
need to be pushing that soldier to be his best, not just yelling at him just because, oh, my daddy drill sergeant yelled at me when I was a private.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is they don't want new soldiers to get off easy because they didn't get off easy, so they don't feel like it'd be very fair. So I'm sure a lot of them probably have that mentality where they're like, no, I'm gonna make sure I go pretty hard on these guys because I didn't get it easy. So it's not fair that I treat them nicer than I got treated or something like that. So I'm willing to bet there's a lot of like that.
and I mean I know that when I got off the bus and everything, I know like they technically got rid of the shark attack. They were kind of phasing in that first 100 yards or whatever, but immediately off the bus, it was shark attack. It was run, grab your stuff, dump it all over, pull it out, count it, do inventory. It was shark attack for the day, and then they're like, "Oh, it's dark out. I guess we have to do this 100 yards thing to cross it off the list or whatever."
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it seemed like. A lot of it was that people were throwing a big fit about, oh, they got rid of the shark attack, and it didn't seem like that with the replacement was anything nice either. It wasn't like that. Oh, we replaced the shark attack with a firm handshake when they come off of the bus and tell them welcome to basic training, and then ask them how they feel and how they're doing, kind of a thing. So definitely look like it still sucks.
I mean, I remember there was a dude who was I don't know, he was tall as hell. He was like, I don't know, like 6'4", 6'6", something like that, and he was just standing there on the bus with his bags, and the drill sergeants were like, "Oh, you need help with that, man? Like you need help? Like it's gonna be a fun time. It's gonna be great." And as soon as those doors open, they're like, "Get the hell off my bus!" Blah 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 blah. And I was like, I'm just waiting for it to happen. There's no way that these drills are just like casually talking to the dude who hasn't even started day one. Like, I already know what's gonna go down in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, and then I don't know if anything really changed AIT wise. I think it's a lot of the changes stuff is like probably basic training wise, because AIT, drill sergeants are not really the same as like basic training drill sergeants. I mean, sure, they're yelling at you a little bit here and there, but really they're a lot of, like, I feel like babysitters. They're kind of just marching you to class to do that kind of stuff. Because I don't even know, what's your MOS, Argo?
35 Fox. So I went to Fort Huachuca in Arizona.
Okay. All right. So yeah, and then VGMR, you would have had like OSIT, right? Did you? Or no, you don't do OSIT for.
No, I did. Yeah. 14 take-up training had AIT.
Okay, yeah. So you still have that kind of thing.
They do it at Fort Sill now, but they did it at Fort Sill now. But when I was in, we had it at Fort Bliss. Back then, that was the home of air defense, and my drill sergeants were much nicer to us.
Yeah.
And AIT, they basically just they treated us more like they're kind of transitioning us to understanding the life of a soldier.
Yeah. It is really just basic. I mean, AIT really was just, with drill sergeants wise, anyways, it was really just they were there to make sure you're acting good in the barracks and get you to class, and then turn you over to the instructors, and then they'd see you again for lunch, and then take you back to class, and then see you again to take you to dinner and take you back to the barracks.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Vijay.
No, you're good. You're good. I was going to just mention 20 weeks.
Yeah. Mine was short, so I only had to deal with it for 5 weeks.
Oh yeah, you're an idiot, Mike. You had the shortest AIT ever.
Yeah, it's probably in that range with probably the shortest AITs. I'd probably look into that. It'd probably be a curious thing to try to find out what are like the shortest AITs that are out there. And I imagine that's got to be in that ballpark, where I don't think there's anything, much shorter than that. If there is anything shorter than that, probably a lot of them are on the either equal or longer. I don't know if there's anything less than 5 weeks or 4 weeks or anything like that.
Yeah, nothing that I've heard. I mean, I think Fox School was like 4.5, 5 months, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was fairly long. But I mean, I feel like it's kind of, or at least from what I've heard, and you guys probably can attest to this better than I can, but I feel like it's because back in the day, it was, when you went to AIT, it was just like platoon sergeants, right? They didn't even have drills at your AIT.
Yeah, at AIT they did. Yeah, we just had drill sergeants. You had drill sergeants that, like I said, they're just like babysitters. They just would babysit you basically in the barracks and all stuff.
They didn't start doing regular sergeants until about 2 years after I got out of the AIT.
Because we still had regular cadre. We did for our instructors.
Right.
So like the people they would teach us for driving the trucks, teach us like certain things, tactics or whatever. That wasn't drill sergeants. Those people were what we called the cadre. And they were just like E5s and E6s. I think they might have been all E6s, but they were just like that. They weren't actually drill sergeants. They were people that had gone through they have that instructor course the Army has. So they had gone through the instructor course to learn how to be an instructor, and then were instructors for 88 mics.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of the same as how it is now, because we had drill sergeants at the barracks, but then we had, like in our classrooms, we had one instructor, which we called them green singers because they're actually in the Army. Currently, but then we had like a civilian contractor to who either did like intel stuff or like the Navy or whatever, or people that are in like the reserves, National Guard, but then are like teaching their full-time jobs. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yep. So another question: Are weekends off in basic training? No. Like for my basic training. We still did training on Saturdays. We couldn't go to the ranges because the ranges were usually run by civilians, that still had to, work Monday through Friday, but we would do some sort of training on Saturdays. Sundays was the only day that was the closest to sort of a day off that we had, because Sunday mornings they would allow soldiers to go to church. And if you weren't going to church, then you were in the barracks cleaning, buffing the floors and doing whatever they wanted you to do. And then Sunday afternoons, they kind of would have not really doing training, but you weren't off either. You were doing something of some sort, whether it's, cleaning up the area, picking up trash, randomly getting smoked or something like that. But yeah, there was no days when I went through basic training, we didn't get any days off. The only time I actually got a real day off was for family time. When we graduated, and then you had your opportunity to go and spend time with family, which my family didn't come. So it was me and a couple other soldiers that also didn't have family came. And so we went to the mall in Columbus, Georgia, and went and explored the mall for a couple hours and then came back. What about with you, VGMR? What was your weekends?
Well, Saturdays were no different from any other day. We never had to worry about the ranges for me. Everything was going out, do your PT, have your meal, and we would do classroom configuration, which I have to say is the hardest part of basic, because unlike the rest of the time, you're just sitting down there listening to them talk. And if you fall asleep, they smoke the shit out of you. And that's so the hardest thing to do is not the PT, is not the tasks. It's staying awake when all you're doing is sitting around talking.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I did have a drill sergeant that was. He didn't talk very much about anything not interesting because he'd always segue into his old stories, and they were ridiculous. But Sundays, I am not a traditional. I don't have a traditional religion, and I found everybody that was like that because most of them, they don't have anybody to go with, so our drill sergeants won't let them do their own thing. So I gathered them together, and I said, "Hey, look, I'll take care of these guys," and they gave us a spot to work to do our thing at for a couple of hours. And then after that, when everybody's religious services are over, it was basically shine your boots, because I still had BDUs at the time. Shine your boots. They'll give you a weapon to clean, and you do your laundry on Sunday.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I mean, that's about as chill as it gets. It's usually when we have cash, we start placing bets on weird things like slathering icy hot on your.
Yeah, I remember we would do like cleaning weapons on the weekends too. So I remember doing that too. It's funny that you mentioned the laundry thing. It seems like everybody I usually talk to, so you probably had washers and dryers, right? Is that what you're saying? When you had to do your laundry, you had washers and dryers, and you'd go down to the washers and dryers and wash your own clothes?
Yes. We were all cheap. We had the old washies. Do you remember the washies?
So the thing I was leading into is that in my basic training, I don't know why mine's so different than a lot of people that I hear that did have to wash their own clothes. We did not. We turned our clothes into a laundry facility. We would go and we had a dedicated day that we had to go and take your laundry bag that you have or whatever, and you had her name on it, and you would turn it into somebody. And you had some people that have to sometimes do a detail where we'd drop off our bags, and then we would have a few guys that had to go and load those bags all into the back of an LMTV. And that LMTV took off to wherever it was on post that they washed our clothes and everything. And then we would get it back usually in 2 days, I think it was 3 days maybe, or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And we get it back, and then they would call off your name, and you'd have to go grab your bag from this big old pile. They had this huge pile, and drill sergeants were yelling off the battle rosters because he had that written on Sharpies on the laundry bag, and they'd yell off the battle roster number, and you'd hear drill sergeant, and you go run up there and grab your laundry bag and grab it from them, and then you'd have to take it back up to your barracks room. So we did it that way.
That's lucky.
Yeah.
That's lucky. I would have loved that.
What about you, Argo? Did you? So let's go back to first the weekends, and then you have to tell us about your laundry experience. So what was your weekends like?
So weekends were kind of along the same lines of what you guys did. It was kind of Saturday. If it was white phase or whatever, it was cleaning weapons, doing instructions, stuff like that. Just essentially boring, mundane shit to try and not fall asleep. Sundays turned out to be Sunday fun day. So it was, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 drills on staff duty or whatever. And it was going to clean the PT pit, making sure all the rocks are back in the thing. Go pull weeds. Go, do this, do that, whatever. Um, and I went in when they started bringing up like the whole phone situation in basic,
Hmm.
but it was like early on, and our drills didn't give a shit. So it was like I think we have it for like maybe 30, 15, 30 minutes, something like that, depending on how the week went or whatever. Um, but it wasn't like 30 minutes once you turn your phone on and sit down and start dialing whatever. It was 30 minutes once you got to your turn in line and picked up your phone. So then by the time you actually got your phone on and everything, you lost like 5 minutes, and you had to go find a spot. And unfortunately, our barracks were, so I went to Leonardwood, but our barracks were by all the engineers and stuff, and they were in the middle of the woods and like the mountains and stuff in Missouri. So I had zero signal. So it wasn't like I could just scroll through Facebook or whatever while I'm on the phone. It was like maybe I can get a phone call out. We'll see how much signal I have. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I got to like say hi to my parents or whatever, but it was just essentially just a waste of time, at least to me, because I couldn't get any signal for my life. But yeah.
Man. So I feel like that's
what me and Chris had, right?
Yeah, so that's good. That's where I was going to go with this, was that I feel like that definitely leads into how the Army has really changed and times have changed compared to how it was for me during that phone time in basic training. So I'll talk about mine, and then we'll have Live VGMR. I'll let you. Yours probably maybe, because it's not too far off from mine, but maybe a little bit better.
Going to be the same thing,
but maybe close-ish, because you said 2005 is when you went to basic.
Yeah.
So I mean, 2005 they had cell phones that were pretty regular in 2005, not super regular, but I mean,
like you get your slide and your flip phone or your mobile or whatever.
Yeah. A lot of people had phones in 2005, but in 99, right? Because I was basically in August of 1999. Definitely not. Cell phones. If people had cell phones, they were massive cell phones. Kind of, they're the Nokia bricks. These massive Nokia phones, and the phone plans were expensive as hell. I think it was like you paying per minute, and it was probably like $0.25 or something like that per minute. So usually people who had cell phones and had those crazy ones only used it for emergencies, kind of a thing. So my phone privilege time consisted of a bunch of pay phones across the wall, and we usually had you had opportunities to buy prepaid phone cards to be able to use those to call people. So you had X amount of minutes on the thing. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's whatever. It cost you $10, $20, whatever it was for a phone card. So I had a phone card, and then we would all stand in line waiting to use the phones, and you only got really like maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I guess it depends on how generous the drill sergeants wanted it to be that day. And we didn't get it every day. It was only like maybe like on Saturdays or something like that. I don't remember specifically what days that were our specific phone days they let us get on the phones. But you'd stand in line, and they would basically, you'd move up, you'd dial your phone number, whoever it was you were going to call, and you had maybe 10 minutes, whatever it was. Drill sergeants be yelling out time, keeping track of it and everything like that. 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever. And then when that time was coming, it was like, all right, get off the phones. Let's go. Get off the phones. And so they start yelling at people, telling people to get off the phones. You got to hang up, and the next person in line get up and do their thing. And it just repeated that way. And that was our phone time, was these damn pay phones. So VGMR, how was your phone time?
Well, cell phones were still not like absolutely common. And if you had one, they confiscate it and you don't get it back till the end. So yeah, we used phone cards too.
Oh, okay.
Pay phones in SIL, they're right next to the first sergeant's office. And we only had one.
Dang.
So you get like 5 minutes. You better get your point across and move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, we used those same AT&T cards.
Yep. Yeah, we had some AT&T phone cards, but we had probably about four, maybe 5 payphones, but it's for a whole company. So you'd usually just be like, today is, X platoon's privilege to use the phones, and then tomorrow was so-and-so's platoons to be able to use the phones for X amount of minutes. And, usually we called them the starships is what they were called, because the way they were at Fort Benning was that they had these massive pillars and all the barracks were above that. So it was like you were underneath a spaceship is what it felt like when you were underneath the barracks.
Is that where the name came from? I was in starships too, yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody was in the starships.
Yeah. So that's what we had in Benning too. We had what they called starships. And so we would sit under those, and we would usually be shining our boots because we had the black boots still. And so you'd be shining your boots, and then that's where also the payphones were at too. So it was usually during that time frame you had an opportunity to shine your boots. They made us drink water, so we had a canteen of water that you had to finish off before you went back up, before we were all done shining our boots. And then they usually gave us fruit. They usually want us to eat like an apple, or I guess scurvy or something. I don't know, but they would have us eat like an apple or an orange. We had to grab something though. You had to grab that vitamin C and everything into you. Was it still that way for you, VGMR? Would you still have to, eat fruit, drink your canteen, and shine your shoes and all that stuff?
I mean, we had to drink water on command. So whenever he felt like it, the drill sergeant just screams out, "Drink water."
Yeah, we'd do that too.
And then we'd have to drink our entire canteen. We didn't have the fruit thing though.
No fruit thing, man.
No, but if we're lucky, sometimes the first sergeant will provide Gatorade for everybody, and one time everybody gets a big old 32 ounces of Gatorade to drink down.
We had
it became habitual for me when I went to IT.
Yeah. We had later in the cycle, they started letting this food truck stop by every now and then, and you're allowed to go purchase something from the food truck. They told you not to that we were not allowed to purchase candy and soda though from it, but we could purchase. They would let us do like at Gatorade. They had some little sandwiches and a few other things that that they said it was okay for us to purchase from them. So we had that luxury.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
I never got any of the Gatorades or something. They had for us, and I don't know if they had them in MREs and stuff, but I remember nowadays they have them kind of in some of the MREs. Is those the first strike bars?
I think it's what replaced the Hula bars. That's what they used to be.
The Hula bars.
Probably. Yeah. So it's essentially like a very tough kind of like a Laffy Taffy consistency, but also like a crunch bar at the same time. And I guess it's just packed with like calcium and like vitamins, whatever.
Yeah.
And they'd make us eat that.
Yep.
Yeah, they're designed to give you carbs and things that your body needs.
Yep, that's what.
It was a brick though.
Yeah, because back
those things weren't great.
Yep, because back in the day they were called Hula bars though, is what we had them as, and they sit on the front.
Different company works them now.
Yeah, maybe, but they're basically the same thing. They had the peanut butter one, you had the chocolate one, and I think you had an apple or something like that one.
Oh, the apple was terrible.
Yeah, I think I always liked the chocolate one.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, the chocolate one was good.
It was basically sawdust.
And yeah, so I usually would either try to get like either the peanut butter one or the chocolate one. Was good. But yeah, the Hula bars you had a ton of them in NTC. I feel like that was where you got the most Hula bars. It was NTC usually had like a box of them sitting at the little chow hall area that they had in NTC. They usually have just a box sitting there, so you were allowed to just grab one, and they'd have a box of Hula bars and like a box of the Gatorade packets you just have to add water to, and they'd have all those usually sitting out for you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed that. In the comment section down below of the YouTube video, make sure to leave some comments. Let me know, what you would like to see in the future for this. Like I said, this is still the early process of creating these podcasts and working with it. So there's a lot of kinks to still work out, things to fine tune and things to try to improve on. And we're going to be working on that. If you would like to join in for these podcasts, this is going to happen on Thursdays. In the evenings in the Discord channel. There's a link in the YouTube video description box for you to join the Discord channel. There's usually an event that I'll have scheduled for the podcast, and you can tune in, you can listen live, or you tune in here to catch maybe some of the highlights from that conversation that we have inside the Discord community. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, whatever the case might be. I'm Christopher Chaos. I'll catch you next time. See ya.